He does not guard gold, he coils around corpses. Panlong, the dragon of hidden coils, is the shadow among dragons, the one who never rises into the sky. Where Shenlong arcs across the clouds to summon rain, and Yinglong spreads vast wings to dominate the heavens, Panlong remains bound to the earth, wrapped around pillars of stone and buried chambers of the dead. His serpentine body stretches longer than rivers, covered in scales of deep jade, turquoise, and green that shimmer like water seen through a crypt's torchlight. From his head curve horns like ancient roots tearing through rock, twisting downward instead of skyward, dragging him ever deeper beneath the surface. He is always depicted coiled, his form tightening around itself, never free, never unwound, as if to remind mortals that his very nature is restraint. This is not the serenity of a sleeping dragon, but the suppression of a force too dangerous to release. Every curl of his body is a prison wall, and every scale a seal pressed against what must remain untouched. Unlike the dragons of thunder and storm, Panlong does not bless fields with rain or spread fortune from the clouds. He has no festivals, no songs of celebration under bright banners. His image is carved into jade funerary discs, etched onto the beams of imperial tombs, hidden in stone corridors where no daylight enters. Panlong is not a dragon for the living. He is a dragon for the dead. There are tales of tomb robbers who push their way into sealed chambers only to feel the ground pulse beneath them, the scrape of scales grinding against unseen walls, the suffocating pressure of something immense shifting in the dark. The deeper they fled, the tighter the tunnels became, until they were crushed between the earth and the dragon's body, swallowed without a trace. Panlong does not guard treasure that glitters in the sun. He does not rule the rivers or sweep through the sky. He rules the underground, the weight of stone and soil, the final resting places of emperors and peasants alike. The mystery that unsettles scholars and priests alike is this: why is he always shown bound, restrained, never in flight, never in motion? What danger would be unleashed if his coils unwrapped and his body stretched across the world? The answer is never written plainly, only hinted in fragments, always with fear. Panlong is depicted hidden, because hidden is his nature. He guards what is forbidden to disturb, a realm no mortal dares to claim, and the truth whispered in every tale is clear. Panlong does not protect treasures. He protects the dead, and he never lets them go. Panlong takes his post at the threshold between stone and spirit, the keeper of chambers that no wind touches and avenues of the dead where banners do not fly. In imperial mausoleums, his body appears carved along columns and wrapped around lintels, the coil repeated methodically, so that the architecture itself seems constricted by him. Artisans set him into jade with fine incisions that follow the curve of each scale, a blue-green sheen like river water under shade, then embedded those discs and plaques near doors, sarcophagi, and hidden passages. The message is clear, without a single word carved beside him. A stretched dragon grants passage. A coiled dragon forbids it. Every loop reads like a lock. Every horn that hooks downward reads like a nail. On funerary beams, he presses inward, turning corridors into arteries that resist invasion. On the faces of coffin panels, he clasps the seams, as if his weight alone prevents the lid from ever rising. In courtyards above the vaults, stone balustrades bear reliefs of Panlong clasping pearls, not as gifts to the living, but as weights, tokens of gravity that hold memory to the ground. The old practice sets him facing inward, never outward, because his duty points to the occupant within. Where Shenlong breathes rain over fields and Yinglong draws lines across the sky, Panlong draws a circle and tightens it until nothing escapes. His image functions as a seal in two directions at once. It binds the spirit to its proper chamber, so that wandering does not turn an ancestor into a hungry shade. It repels what should never touch the chamber from outside, thieves of flesh and thieves of lineage alike, mortal hands and magui that feed on neglect. Priests place small jade rings engraved with this spiral around key stones, pour clear rice wine into cracks that lead to the lower rooms, and press cinnabar along thresholds so that his path can be traced when the tomb is closed. Families float paper boats on underground streams where the water runs black and cold, letting the boats circle once beneath a carved panlong before the current swallows them. Fishermen in cave rivers tie red silk to their poles and bow toward carvings in the rock before guiding coffins downstream to hidden inlets where the guardian waits. No festival trumpet calls his name. Offerings are quiet and heavy with intention. Coins of copper darkened by the earth. Knots of silk that will never be untied. A bowl overturned so the liquid vanishes into the same ground that keeps the body. The living know these gestures are less prayer than contract. Place the seal, set the weight, pay the guardian, and the passage remains closed. That is protection. But the artisans always carve a hint of teeth beneath the coils, a line of pressure at the jaw, a suggestion that the same force that holds can crush. The families understand the second half of the contract, even if no one speaks it aloud. Panlong does not merely guard the tomb. He punishes the hand that tests the seal. It went in laughing and came out as a rumor. The first crew broke the seal at dusk, 5 men with hemp ropes and iron picks, and for a while the only sounds were chisel taps and the low breath of the cavern. Then dust began to fall in a steady line from the ceiling, as if drawn by a magnet. The floor trembled without wind. From the far wall came a dragging rasp like a millstone grinding, but slower, heavier, unmistakably alive. Scales met stone. Something vast shifted its weight, and the corridor narrowed, as if the masonry itself had learned to breathe. The lantern flames curled sideways. One man ran for the entrance and found the passage coiling with him, curve after curve tightening until his shoulders could not pass. Another swung a pick and struck a horn that carved a crescent into the rock. Teeth closed, and the pick clattered once against the floor, then never again. By morning, the ropes lay on the threshold, neatly coiled, and the names of the 5 were spoken only in warning. A second story tells of soldiers ordered to seize a dowry buried with a defeated lord. They brought torches and confidence. When the captain lifted the lid of the inner coffin, the torches guttered backward as if a tide had reversed. The chamber groaned. From beneath the sarcophagus, a length of scaled body slid forward, jade and deep green under soot, the mass of it bending the room into a spiral. Claws bit the flagstones. The captain shouted for a retreat and discovered there was no straight line left to run. The tunnel had become a loop. By the time the surviving soldiers burst out into night air, their captain was absent, and the entrance had settled a handspan lower into the ground, held down by a weight no lever could lift. There is also the scholar who believed careful hands do no harm. He mapped every slab and wrote pledges to disturb nothing. Yet when he brushed the dust from a lacquered box, the floor swelled like a lung, and a low roar rolled through the pillars. More felt than heard the voice of stone under pressure. He saw the curve of a jaw close beside the box, and understood the rule too late. In each account, the signs repeat. A cold draft pulled inward instead of out. A slow, massive breath that is not breath. The serrated whisper of scale against granite. When Panlong wakes, judgment does not arrive as words or counsels. It arrives as pressure. He measures offense by weight. Minor trespassers are turned around by hallways that bend back to their start. Thieves who break, pry, and mock are crushed between masonry and coil until the tomb records their names as dust. The living learn that a grave is not a room to enter, and the dead learn that wandering spirits will not cross his line. Mogay that sniff along the seams of burial doors are trapped by tightening loops and pinned until the river beneath carries them away. This is how order holds between worlds. The guardian does not plead and does not bargain. He restores the boundary by force, returning bones to their beds, closing lids, sealing seams with his weight, and leaving behind only the pattern of a spiral pressed into the stone. Yet the pattern hints at more than prison. Even those who fear him admit that a coil can be more than a lock. On nights when the underground rivers rise, families swear they hear a vast body sliding with the current and sea, just for a heartbeat, a circle of scaled rings moving like a fairy in the dark. Panlong punishes, yes, but the old caretakers lower their voices at this point, because the next truth belongs to those who must travel rather than remain. When the living speak of Panlong, they picture punishment, but the dead know him differently. To them, he is not only a jailer, but a guide, the one who bends his coils into a vessel and carries spirits through the rivers beneath the earth. Legends say that when a person's final breath leaves the body, a subtle current pulls downward through soil and stone toward caverns where water runs black and slow. In that silence, the first sight is not terror, but light glinting off scales. The dragon waits, not stretched like a banner in the sky, but curled into a ring so vast it forms its own boat. The soul steps inside, and the body of Panlong folds again and again until the spirit is enclosed, shielded from demons that stalk the underground. To ride inside him is to feel every curve shift like the ribs of the world moving. Each breath of his chest rocks the soul forward. The walls of his coils glow faintly with the jade colors of his scales, casting an emerald path in the dark. His eyes burn like twin lanterns, showing the way where no torch could survive. As he moves, water parts for him, stone corridors unfurl before his bulk, and no barrier holds against his passage. Those carried by Panlong are said to hear nothing of screens or claws, only the deep rush of the river, and the steady beat of a heart that belongs to something older than memory. He brings them to the courts of ancestors, to halls where the line of family continues beyond the grave. And then he unwinds just enough to let the spirit step across the threshold. For that task, he is not feared but revered. Taoist monks chased visions of him in meditation, seeking the moment when the living mind could glimpse the ferrymen of the underground. Some sat for days in total darkness beside rushing water, waiting for the shimmer of a coil or the echo of a roar rolling beneath their feet. A few claimed success, describing immense circles of jade that closed around their bodies and pulled them into tunnels of green light. They returned to waking life shaking and drenched, convinced that Panlong had wrapped them for an instant to show the shape of the path. These monks spoke of him as the bridge between worlds, a creature that could unlock doors no ritual alone could open. Yet every account came with the same warning. One does not summon him for curiosity or vanity. A prayer that calls the dragon without reason is heard as defiance, and defiance is crushed. Families whispered that if a soul was taken too early, dragged from the coil before it reached the ancestors, Panlong would not return the body. He would keep it, bound forever in his loops, turning a life into ballast for the tomb he guards. In this role as guide, he is merciful, but only when the boundary between worlds has been crossed at its rightful time. To invite him falsely, to request his service without need, is to risk becoming part of the weight that keeps his coils pressed tight. And so the living keep their prayers measured, the monks keep their visions rare, and the dead alone know the true road inside his body. Panlong is never celebrated with drums in the streets, or banners flapping beneath the sun. He is not the dragon whose name is called to bring storms over dry fields, nor the one painted in triumph across temple ceilings. His place is beneath, unseen, a presence that is felt in the pressure of the ground underfoot and the echo of water running far below. His paradox is what makes him feared and revered in equal measure. He is the guardian that seals chambers against intrusion, the punisher who crushes the arrogant and greedy, and the guide who coils his body into a vessel to deliver souls to their rightful place. Each role contradicts the other, yet they live together in him because he alone has the strength to bind them. To look at his image is to see the language of force. Every turn of his serpentine body his potential energy wound tighter than any chain. The coils press inward not as decoration but as barriers, as warnings carved in stone and jade. He is a spring of catastrophe held closed, the suggestion that release would split mountains and change the shape of rivers. That is why artisans never dared depict him stretched out, never in flight, never with wings wide. They understood that his meaning is not motion but tension, the unbearable power of something that remains clenched forever. For the living, his presence is a weight. To enter a tomb and see Panlong carved along the pillars is to be reminded that this place belongs not to you, that eyes brighter than any torch are already watching from the cracks in the rock. He is not a dragon to be adored at festivals, but a dragon to be obeyed in silence. A constant reminder that death is defended. For the dead, his presence is different. His coils keep their rest intact, their bones undisturbed, their names secure against the erosion of time and theft. He guards them not because they are kings or peasants, not because they were rich or poor, but because all belong to his ward once buried. Panlong does not discriminate. His strength belongs to the boundary itself. This is why stories of punishment always bleed into stories of mercy, and why even monks who sought his vision trembled to speak of it aloud. He is not light in the sky, but pressure in the earth, not the dance of storm clouds, but the relentless squeeze of the soil. He is the dragon of finality, of keeping what has ended in its place. That is the truth, carved in jade discs and hidden in tomb walls. He does not protect treasure vaults. He does not preserve crowns. He does not defend empires of men that rise and fall with time. Panlong guards what none would dare to steal, what none could ever return if stolen. He guards the dead, and the eternal coil never unwinds.